Absolutely. I'm having the best time of my life right now, and it's the first time that I've not been working for money.
This episode is brought to you by Restaurant Systems Pro. All right. With excitement, allow me to introduce to you today's guest, owner and head crabber at Casual Crabbing, Tia Clark. Tia, are you feeling unstoppable today?
Oh, I'm unstoppable every day.
Awesome. I'm super excited for today's conversation. You came on my radar by way of Brooks Tanner, a dude who I have a lot of respect for, brother from a different mother. Love this guy, and he has such great things to say about you and what you're doing. Every time I mention who I'm talking to in town, I mention Tia Clark, and everyone's like, she's awesome. She's the best.
That's awesome.
So I know we're in for a treat. I have no idea what we're going to discuss, but I'm excited to get into it. But before we do, let's get that motivational, inspirational ball rolling with a success quote or mantra. What do you got for us?
I'm going to say work for joy and not money.
Work for joy and not money. Dive into that. Is this a good representation of what's going on in your life right now?
Absolutely. I'm having the best time of my life right now, and it's the first time that I've not been working for money.
Is it hard to work for joy in the beginning when?
Absolutely. You have to be. Absolutely. You're the most. It's the most vulnerable you probably will ever feel, because you start into it and you want, think about it. You get your first job. Like most people's first job is like at a fast food place or something, but you're working for money to get something that you want.
Yeah.
So that's always in your head when you're working.
Yeah. I'm going to pull some layers back on that as the interview unpackages, but where does it make sense to start sharing your story? How long have you been doing this?
The business, I've been doing the crab business since 2017.
Okay.
But it's funny that I'm on a podcast called Restaurant Unstoppable, because I was in the food and beverage industry for 20 years.
I was curious. Beautiful.
Yeah, no,
Nice.
Somebody just told me recently that it's a culture, it doesn't matter if you own a restaurant or if you're actually working at one now. It's always inside me.
What were you doing in the restaurant industry?
You name it. My first job was at 17, and I was washing dishes. And
That's how I started.
yeah, I went from washing dishes to salad prep to line every now and then. And then from that, I was a full on in the kitchen all the time.
Nice.
And I actually moved to New Orleans for a few years, and I was cooking the whole time that I was there. That was part of the time when I was in back of house. And then I came back right before Katrina, and then I moved in the front of house and started serving. And the last things that I was doing was bartending and helping to manage and run bars.
So when were you was crabbing something that you always did on the side, growing up, or
Absolutely
you
not.
found it later in life?
I'm going to say it found me later in life.
I know you started your business in 2017, but I was curious if you had been crabbing as a hobby your entire life.
No, never.
No.
I went crabbing. I'm 43. I went crabbing when I was 37.
I'm always afraid to ask. Some guests don't like to date themselves.
Well, you're smart, especially with women. You should never.
Usually, some way I figure it out. I'm like, when did you start? How old were you when you started? And I do reverse engineering. Okay.
I don't mind. I'm 43.
Yeah.
43, and I went crabbing when I was 37. So I caught my first
my
split
age
crab.
when you started crabbing.
Yeah. And that's because it was all because of a health journey. So, if we really want to get into it, we can get into
it. That's what we're here.
Well,
let's
get
pull back
into
some
it.
layers.
Well, good, because I always tell this story, but I always just tell why I started crabbing. You know what I mean? I didn't really start crabbing. Someone took me crabbing.
Okay.
I didn't say, hey, here's this thing I want to do.
Was that in 2017 as well? Or before this?
That was, actually it was. It was early 2017.
Okay, wow. So you went from never crabbing to making a career out of it in less than a year.
Yeah.
That's impressive. Talk about jumping off the cliff and just taking a risk and
going
for it.
I went crabbing. Well, I'll take that back. So I went crabbing, and then people wanted to come crabbing with me.
Okay.
And I did not let people come crabbing with me.
Why not?
For close to a year. Because,
those are spots.
I'm sorry. Did you say you worked in food and beverage? Do you know anybody in food and beverage? Does anybody in food and beverage just invite strangers in, right?
Right.
No. Being in bars and being in that industry, you're not welcoming strangers in, I'm I got to deal with you guys. I know what this is like.
Yeah.
But I was doing something
This is for
fun.
me, not you.
That's exactly. Let's just say I was being real stingy in the beginning, I really was this is all for me. And that was all just based off of what I knew about people. I had all these walls up, my whole life. I had walls up that I was keeping people out. And I had a dog, And my mom used to call that dog her grand dog because she knew, like, I used to say it's me and this dog. When this when this dog's gone, it's just me. Like, and then my wife came along, changed all that. But that's I really like was trying to keep everybody out from like the way that I presented myself. Like, I never really held my head up a lot. Like, I was real. I had a dark cloud on me. I'll just say that.
I mean, I'm willing to talk about, but I also don't need to pull back those layers. If you're
Oh no,
not.
no, I'm gonna get into it.
Let's get into it.
Yeah, I'm gonna get into it. So like, I was in food and beverage, and I lived the typical, stereotypical food and beverage life. Work all night, drink all night, sleep all day, like just the typical,
and
then
repeat.
rinse and repeat, and right back in. And I really did not care about what was going on with me. Like, let's just say I'm a hard worker, so like, I will work my shift. If anybody didn't want to work, I'm going to work their shift too. Like, I'll work everybody's shift. If y'all don't want to come to work, guess what? I'm going to cover the shift because the job's going to get done. And that's just always been my mentality. But that's to a fault because anything that was wrong with me, I always put on the back burner. And I almost like worked myself almost into that bad health that I was in.
Yeah, the industry is really guilty of doing this. I think collectively the industry does this. We're always putting it. We're full of people who are generous. The industry is packed full of people who are generous, and collectively, I think the industry suffers because we are constantly putting the guests first.
Yeah,
and I think that's one of the reasons why so many people don't want to work in this industry because we've literally backed ourselves into a corner where we just give, and there's nothing left over for the people who work in the industry.
Yeah, like for myself. Like, I mean, it's as simple as like, going outside or like, I mean, like I would not even open the blinds. Like, I remember like living where the house that I was in before we live now with my wife. And I remember like her being like, I come in from work and you got all the blinds drawn. You're just sitting on the couch, like watching TV, doing whatever you're doing. But it's like, there's a beautiful bright day going on outside. And I'm just like, waiting to go to work when it's dark and then put myself back in this dark building and like expect, I was actually at that point I wasn't expecting to be happy. Like I was just going through, wash, rinse, repeat. But also like, I mean, I didn't graduate from college. Like I didn't have a college degree. This is what I know that I'm going to do to provide for me and my family comfortably, And
you're making me think too, we give to our careers and the people that we serve in our careers. And we personally sacrifice. We don't get like you're pointing out. You weren't taking care of yourself, but we also neglect the people we love. Yeah. Your wife. Yeah. She sees you out there giving. You come home. What about me?
Yeah.
Where's mine?
Yeah. And I'm drawing the blinds. I'm like, you want to come sit over here with me? Like, I don't want to go do nothing. Which is funny because it's like almost reversed now. Like I'm like, all I want to do is be outside. Like you can't get me if you put me inside something with no windows, and I'm probably going to freak out, and like my anxiety probably is going to go through the roof. I'm going to notice it now.
Yeah, I mean, you talk to most people, they'll tell you their priorities are, usually religion and like family, and then career. But in the hospitality industry, it's always career first, and then whatever's left over. Is.
Because that's how you're making a living. I mean, like that's my whole thing. Like that's that, but that also like. I had my mom and my grandma, like, they're, like, the hardest working women that I've ever seen in my entire life. So, those were my examples. So, to see them always work so hard, like, I knew I was going to work hard. But then, also, when I put those walls up, I had to work even harder because my walls were, like, to keep everybody out. Well, if it's just me, guess what? You got to do all the work. I want to
talk about these walls a little bit more. So, these walls were, paint the picture of what these walls were doing a little bit further. Like, what were you blocked? Like, why were you afraid to let people in? Was it just bandwidth?
I wasn't afraid to. I feel like people had already revealed themselves to me in a lot of different ways at a real young age, and like up to a certain point, I was like, why make myself vulnerable to be in any kind of situation close to what I see or what I have to go through? Like I wanted to.
I actually don't know if I understand. I'm sorry.
All right. Well, I'm trying to figure out the best way to really kind of word this stuff. We can always
clean it up on the back end too.
Yeah, no, I'm trying to figure out the best way to kind of talk about it. I didn't want. let's just say I was
pushing you early in
no,
this conversation.
it's not even pushing early. I'm trying to figure out how to word it, because really it was just that I was trying to protect myself always, constantly.
What were you afraid of?
Well, I mean, I have everything and everybody. Like, I'm not gonna let some stranger come hurt me. You know, like I had my
were
mom.
you hurt early? Was there a traumatic moment where you just lost trust in people?
Well, I had some sexual abuse when I was younger. Okay. I dealt with that. But that wasn't even like the whole thing that made me like shut people out. You know, like that wasn't even like the one identifying thing that did it. You know, like I guess I'm not saying everybody has it, but you know, it's just a really common thing that happens. But when you deal with a lot of hurt and a lot of failure, like I had a lot of rejection. Like I didn't have any relationship with my father. Like that was a big deal for me. You know, like that was a big deal for me. And I actually describe that in a way to myself that I just realized recently with talking to my mom within the past few years, that I was so wrong. Like what I told myself about it coming up was so wrong. But it's clarified now.
We're here. The mission statement of Restaurant Unstoppable is to inspire, empower, and transform the industry. And what you're getting into right now, I think, is the transformative part. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of people who are in this industry. A lot of people don't have the choice but to be in this industry. For a lot of people, this is the only opportunity that they can get because of whatever upbringing they had, or, you know, maybe they didn't get the same privilege as some other people, so that start from a lower place and work their ways up, right? So I think there's a lot of just educating of people of how, what you deserve as a person, right? Mm-hmm. You know, and like you said, you had walls up, you were hurt early.
Yeah,
you know.
Well, I mean, I think with the abuse, I think the fact that I always just felt rejected because I didn't have, you know, like that father, that like my dad, like my sister and my brother, they had the same dad, like, you know, like it was just always like this thing. And it was even deeper than that because he actually lived like really close to where I grew up.
Yeah.
And like had his own family, and like there were times, like seriously, if we were going to get into it, there's times where I remember like driving down the street and kind of seeing parts of him.
Oh man, that must be so rough as a young person.
And then like, but knowing that like I could never go and like meet him, you know, like having all of this kind of disconnect for me. I don't know. It was just something for me that made it.
Well, I think a young person, and I don't want to tell your story or make assumptions, but empathizing with that, me being in that position, if I saw my dad and I didn't have a relationship with him, I'd be thinking to myself, like, what did I do wrong? Why don't you want me? What's wrong with me? You know, I don't know if that, again, I don't want to fill in the
well, it wasn't even that, because I think like at some point he knew about me. It was a little deeper than that, but then it was like, so here's this thing, right? Here's this thing that I want so bad. And then I would get like the setup and then the failure of it after that, because he knew parts of my family. There were times where like they would be like, he's going to come see you today. Oh. And so then I would be all excited.
And then you get let down again.
Nobody would be there.
Yeah.
Nobody would be there, you know. My mom's irate that I'm even put in this situation. And so there would be like all these little things. And like I remember him, like he died, I think like 6 years ago, maybe like 5 or 6 years ago. And like I remember my mom like just calling and telling me, and I just thought, and instantly, you know what I thought was, man, I'm never going to see his face. Right. Like that's what I thought was like, I'm never going to see his face. And then that goes even crazier where like I was trying to look for pictures and like asking people to look for pictures, and they found a picture, and I swear to you, it's the side of his face.
That's funny.
I'm like, damn it. Now it's just a joke, you know? Now it's like, oh my God. now it's like just kind of like this laughable thing. It's like that I won't have. But then I question myself. I'm like, well, why the hell do I even need that? You know what I mean? Like, then you ask yourself, like, why the hell are you chasing this thing that you might not even, what do I need it? Why do I even need that?
It sounds like you were disappointed a lot. You were hurt early in life. And because of that, you put up, you got defensive. You put up walls because you didn't want to get hurt again.
Yeah, I knew if I controlled my environment, then I can control the hurt. I can control, you know, the letdown. I can control everything about it. Yeah. And the thing about that was I wasn't in control of any of those situations. Right. None of it. I was a kid. I couldn't make any decisions.
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess the point I was trying to make earlier with the whole transformative thing is there's a lot of people that could... You're an example for a lot of people right now who might have been hurt, who might be closing themselves off out of fear of being hurt again. And you're living proof that if you break down those walls and if you let people in, you know, it can transform your life. It
Yeah,
can have a
and
really
you
positive
change your
impact.
environment, because I'm telling you, your environment is so, excuse my French, but so damn important. Like,
You can say a lot worse
I'm
than that
serious.
on the show.
Well, I know. I told Brooks that you and I, we were gonna have a competition to see who could say "fuck" the most.
All right, challenge
he laughed
accepted.
pretty. He laughed pretty good on that. No, I really feel like even for instance in the bar business, like I haven't got into really even kind of like the meat of it yet with you. But like when I was in that world, like I thought, this is it. Like this is all that I'm gonna do. This is gonna be a big part of the story.
Wow, is that the OG belt
This
right
is the
there? What are we
belt.
looking at?
And that,
Like, did you lose hundreds of pounds or something?
Yes, I did.
Wow,
Yes, I did.
that's amazing.
Yes, I did. You said hundreds. It's so funny.
This belt
This
is
be-
at least 2 feet long. I'm not exaggerating.
Well, I'm serious. It's
Now,
crazy.
when I say the belt is 2 feet long, I'm saying the part that is beyond the whatever
Yeah.
the belt is around Tia's waist, and what's left over is 2 feet long.
Yeah, like so.
Watch
But look,
watch the video portion of this if you want to.
So this is January 2017.
Wow.
Right there. There's some of the dates you can still.
Oh, you put the
on-
dates on them.
Well, I didn't. That's May.
So
So this is January to May, just in 2017.
So what's happening right now? If you're listening to this podcast and not watching it, Tia took her belt out from around her waist, and she's holding it out. It's about 2 feet long, and it's the weight she's lost since 2017. And that's inspirational right there. Way to go.
Well, those notches were made by like one of my bar patrons.
Okay.
So like this all happened when I was still behind the bar.
Oh, wow.
So you know we kind of got out of it a little bit
Yeah.
there with everything, but you know the everything that I did in food and beverage is what is making this experience what it is. It's what's making this business so successful. No chance that
Everything
it would
you
be.
did in food and beverage is why this business is successful. But what do you mean everything you think you did? Like what?
Every skill I gathered while I was there, every job I had, every leadership position, everything that I learned from being in the food and beverage industry, from washing dishes all the way to managing, is why this crabbing business is as successful as it is. When I was behind the bar at like the end of my bartending career, with confidence, I could tell you within the first 5, probably less than 10 minutes of a patron, of if I was going to have to kick them out, call the police. I knew exactly how my day was going to go. Any personality, any age, doesn't matter. And that's what this thing is now that we're doing kind of on the dock. Like, you know, we have over 600 5-star reviews. Never had a bad time from thousands and thousands of guests that have come out on that dock crabbing. And I know that if I just had a regular job working, say I just worked a cash register and talked to people for like 2 seconds and never really got to know them, like that wouldn't have given me the skill that I got from knowing people and building relationships with the people in the communities and these restaurants and these bars that I worked in. I mean, and it's carried on with me. Even this belt that I just showed you, every one of those notches was a patron named George. George used to come in the evenings. Like, I can tell you stuff about his life. Like, I didn't just feel like I was just serving drinks in those places. I felt like I was really a part of the community. They weren't just like big name places. They were small places that were always community driven, you know? And I love that, and I respect that so much about the restaurant industry. So, yeah, it worked me hard, you know, and put me where I was. But it's funny because I credit everything I kind of got now and my skills and how I can build this business. Like, what do I know about running a business, right?
Well, we're gonna get into that.
What I know about running a business.
Yeah, and
I started running other people's businesses.
exactly.
That's how you learn it.
Yeah. So I'm curious, before we start talking about your business today, what were if you can make a list of 3 or 4 things that you learned running other people's businesses that you're applying to your business today, what would those be?
Treat the people that are working with you like humans.
Okay. That's a good place to start.
Yeah. Treat them like humans. I got a compliment recently from one of my crew members that was like, "Thank you so much," because they had to like take off to take their kid to the doctor, and I was like, yes, please take your kid to the doctor. Let me know how it goes.
That was gonna be my follow-up question. Like, it seems obvious, like when you say treat people like humans, but what does that look like?
That's the example of it. It's like, you know, if somebody is like, hey, my kid's sick and I can't come to work. Okay, I got it.
Takes
like
priority.
Yes, like I'm gonna say my response there is absolutely take your kid to the doctor. Like, please reach out to me. Let me know if there's something I can do. And I seriously am confused because the reason I'm saying this is because that situation happened and then they called and thanked me afterwards. And I was like, why are you thanking me? Like, and I was confused. Like, what is the other response that you got there that you're thanking me now that that was it? What is the other response?
I mean, there shouldn't be. I mean, the other one is that do you want your job tomorrow, I guess, is the response some people get, which is probably a big reason why people don't, you know, put themselves first and they put their careers first and they neglect their relationships because they're afraid of losing their job.
Yeah, well, that's why I want to do this different. I want to form a crew and make like a crew and a family of people, not just kind of like have people working under me, you know, like, because I want them. I never in my life thought I'd be in the situation that I'm in right now. And so I'm building a crew of people that I want to take and share this experience with, you know, like I'm not like just people that are dragging along and doing it. Like, here is this world that we're going to build for all of us to live in together in a good way.
Yeah. So that's one, treat people like human beings.
Yes. One, treat people like human beings. Be passionate. Love what you are doing. I mean, golly, if you love what you are doing, you don't even have to sell it.
Yeah. What is it about crabbing that you love so much?
It's not even really just crabbing. It's being out on the water. It's watching people crab. It's watching people make a connection with the water. That moves me. Like, because I tried to keep that to myself, and then I started sharing it and realizing, oh shit, this is really good with other people. You know, like, you can crab every day. Yeah, I can crab every single day, but I crab every day with different people that I've never met before. And that right there is like the good stuff, because it's not really even just about crabbing. When we get into what we're doing, we are building like stewards. Like, I mean, people are going nutty. I mean, you got adults acting like kids.
That must be
kids
fun.
Being kids.
Yeah.
You know, everything being free. Like, we've just created this environment. Like, that's what I'm telling you. There's power in the environment.
If you think about like humans over time, like this is what we're built to do, to go out and forage and to be a part of nature and to go pull our food out of the earth. You know,
it's our resource. It's ours. It's right there. Like, we have a right to it. We have a right to it, but
there's something primal about that. Reconnecting with going out with a tribe of people and just doing what we do.
I lost my mind, Eric. I'm telling you, like, after that first time, like, I was like, this is what has been missing. Like, you know, my first time crabbing is also the first time that I ever caught and prepared my own food.
Wow. As a professional cook at one point in your life, right?
I never caught and prepared my own food before.
How crazy is that?
For me, it's nutty because now that's all I want to do, you know?
But
like,
there's such a disconnect between our food and where it comes from and what we do.
Like, I didn't care about what I was eating. I didn't care about what I was drinking. Like, in my younger days, I did, like, hard drugs. Like, I mean, I really did not care. Yeah. Like, I would do...
Well, you're invincible
I would do... Younger. Everybody is, right? You're like, what? What kind of drug? Give it to me. And it did. Yeah. And it really did. But, you know, now it's... Man, it's just like so good. You're like, why do I like to watch people crab? I'm like, I want to take every person I can crab it. Every person.
The first one, treat people like a human. Second one, love what you're doing. Love what you're doing. Yes. Passion for the work you're doing. I think I asked for 3 or 4. So let's get one more.
You asked for 3. So treat people good. Have your passion. And really, I mean, it's simple. Just be a good human being. Yeah. Like, I mean, that is really is the simplest thing. Treat people the way you want to be treated.
Business is literally about relationships. It's one of the biggest things. It's just managing relationships. Yeah, that's all it is. It's in the word company. It's company. It's the people you surround yourself with. And I think we disconnect with that sometimes. We think it's about transactions and being.
Dude, we get into work. It's like that gets you into the cycle. You know, that's why I like that. Every day I go crabbing, right? I set up the same baskets.
Yeah.
Different people come every day, and the experience is different every day.
Yeah.
Every day.
I think now is a great time to take our first break to thank our sponsors. And we're going to be back to talk about how you built your business and what you're doing and what advice you have for others who want to kind of follow in your footsteps. Maybe not crabbing in Charleston. We don't want to create competition, but maybe someplace else.
Come on.
We have to interrupt today's video to let you know that right now Restaurant Systems Pro is offering a no strings attached 60-day trial that will help you improve your systems, increase your profit, and find better work-life balance. All you have to do is click the link below.
We are back, and now I really just want to dive into like the empowerment part. If you're listening to this and you're in the restaurant industry, I think that there's just so much opportunity adjacent to the restaurant industry for passion to be served. Like there's just so much opportunity that the restaurant industry spins out of it. And I know you're not like going out and crabbing and like providing, you're not catching crabs and selling them to restaurants, right?
No,
you're not doing that. But if you have a passion for food and entertaining people and, you know, the power that food has over people, there's ways to make money that aren't working in restaurants.
Absolutely.
Right. So I want to get into that. So like when did the idea of starting your own business pop into your head? Like when did you start thinking like this?
That's a good question. I didn't. So that'd be a good time for me to get into the belt, because the belt is what led me to crabbing. So,
How much did you weigh? Do you mind me asking you at one point?
At one point, the highest that I remember was just over 300 pounds.
Wow.
So,
I would have never guessed.
Yeah, no, I've got pictures I show people, and they're like, there's no chance that was you. And I'm like, it was me. My pant size was 48 inches is what. Yeah, it was pretty crazy.
So you kind of just painted the picture. Is that have influence on why you started crabbing?
Well, kind of, sort of. Okay. So, you know, yes, I was just being unhealthy. I mean, I really was just like at this point to where I was just like, man, is this really just like it, you know? Like, and then I started just feeling like aches, pains, tired all the time, really just slow, not wanting to, just no energy. You know, my energy sucked. I didn't want to do anything. And I said, I'm going to quit smoking cigarettes, because I smoked cigarettes the entire time I was in food and beverage for just over 20 years.
It's the only way you can get a break.
Yeah. I know. Well, actually, the last bar that I worked at, it's so funny. I tried to quit smoking so many times throughout those 20 years. The last bar that I worked at, the owner smoked, and you had the option to make your bar smoke free. And so we were like begging, like, let's go smoke free. You know? let's go. And I tried before then, but it's like standing inside of an ashtray and trying to quit smoking cigarettes with people smoking all around you. It was just difficult.
Yeah.
But when he agreed and that bar went smoke free, I was like, I'm going to do it. This is my chance. I'm going to try. And my birthday was coming up, and I was like,
about to turn 37?
I was about to turn 37. No, my 36 actually. Okay. And I was like, I'm going to quit smoking September 2016. And I was like, I'm going to quit. And then I was like, well, I'm definitely not quitting on my birthday. Like, I'm not going to be crazy, you know, like we're still got to go out drinking and stuff. So let's just be, if I really want to do it. I actually downloaded an app, and the app was super cool. The app was like, choose what day you want to quit. And so leading up to it, the app was like, guess what's happening in a week, you know, like 5 days, we're about to make this change. And it was like getting you pumped up for this thing. And so I downloaded the app, and I was doing it in 6 days after my birthday. So September 19th in 2016, I quit. And I thought, oh my God, I'm doing it. You know, like I was so pumped when I went into this thing. And then we went on this cruise. Me and my wife, we got in the hot tub, and it's like, after we got out, I was like, oh my God, I'm covered in hives. And I was like, oh shit. I was like, I'm breaking out. Like, what's happening? Like, I was thinking, oh, it's this hot tub, like it's some kind of reaction, you know? Like, so we get off the cruise, and I'm like still covered in hives and just feeling bad. And I was like, I'm going to go to the hospital. So I go to the hospital because my right hand kept getting so big. When I say my hand was swelling up, it was like somebody injecting it. I keep joking saying it was like hamburger helper, but the thing was like just my right hand kept like swelling up, getting so inflamed, and it was like stiff, and I couldn't quite close my fingers, and I was just like, what the heck's happening? And so I go to the hospital, and they would give me steroids. they would just be like, take your pants down. I'd take my pants down and shoot me right in the butt. Give me the damn steroids. But seriously, it was like somebody dumping a bucket on a fire, you know, in a raging fire. Like I was just like, like deep breath, like sigh of relief, like I can breathe finally. And then I would go to bed and I would wake up. And I just remember sitting on the end of the bed for a minute, and I would always just like stop and I'd be like looking at my arms, waiting to see if I could feel anything, and it'd be like, God, it's back. Like I knew it was back, and it was.
This
still
was
there.
after you quit.
This was after I quit smoking cigarettes. Now this is so crazy, right? Because I went in the hot tub and I thought that was what was going on.
Yeah.
Well, I go to the hospital. I end up going back to the hospital about 3 different times within 2 weeks.
Did they ever diagnose you?
No, in the hospital they just give you steroids. You know, they're like, what's going on? You know, it's the ER. They're like, what? You're breaking out in hives? Here's some steroids, you know? So the 3rd time, I'm telling you, it was like the worst that I felt. I was like...
How far after, long after was the 3rd time after the 1st time?
So I think that cruise was November. So it was about 3 months from when I quit smoking to when I started seeing my first kind of reaction. Okay. But I didn't, or I'd say 2.5 months before I saw that first reaction of anything, which was the hives, which was now I know now is my body trying to give me signs that something was going on.
You weren't getting the nicotine.
That's what I thought, right?
Okay.
All right. So after the 3rd time now, and the 3rd time is the worst outbreak, and I go to this hospital, and I'm telling you, dude, I'm like speeding, one hand, getting there. And I'm like almost undoing my belt by the time they call my name, you know, and they were like, whoa. They were like, we can't give you any more steroids. And I'm telling you, like, I like burst into tears. I was like angry. I was like, what do you mean? Because I knew that this was the only place that I was going to get some relief. Yeah. And they were like, we can refer you to National Allergy. They referred me there. National Allergy was like, go cover stuff in your house with hypoallergenic stuff. Go take Zyrtec, like all these different things for about a month.
Process of elimination.
They just had me trying, but the hives never stopped. So they could never actually do like an allergy test because your system has to calm down before they can do that. Yeah. And so they could never actually do like an allergy test. And so they were just like giving me things to try to help me because I'm freaking out, you know, like every time I'm in there, I'm like, I need help, you know, like somebody's got to help me. Like, I mean, I'm telling you, like when I tried to kick junk and I was in New Orleans, I remember like I had this job, and it's so funny because I'm like such a control freak. Like the reason I quit smoking cigarettes, right? I tried to quit smoking for 20 years. The reason I actually quit smoking is because I was having a conversation with somebody and I was talking all not just casually like, oh, well, I've only been smoking for something. And then I just kind of like stopped and realized that my birthday was going to be 20 years. And I was like, you're an idiot. Yeah, you're paying to kill yourself for 20 years. And I was like, you're an idiot. And like seriously, that is what happened. Like I spent so much money on things before then, but just that in my brain. But when I was sick trying to kick drugs in New Orleans, like I remember feeling so bad one day, like I had to call in to work and I was laying on my stomach and it felt like somebody had their hands like in the back of my calves and they was just like tightening like every muscle. And I remember just like being in this pain, this agony. And I thought that was the worst I ever felt. And I remember looking at my wife and I said, this is the worst that I've ever felt in my life because it was just going on for so long and there was nothing I could do to get any relief. And so then finally the lady at National Allergy tells me to go see a holistic lady who she was friends with. She sends me to this lady. This lady is like, I want you to go get labs. So I went and got labs and came back because I went in there and I'm like, I'm going to die. Like, I'm not going to live like this. This is the last doctor that I'm planning on going to. So if you guys don't figure this out, I'm going to exit stage right like that. Like I was, and I mean like not kind of joking like that, but I was serious about like, this was the end for me. I was like, I can't go on like this. Like when my hand was swollen, I still had to work. Yeah. Like I worked 4 days a week. I made more money at that time than my wife that was working for the state for over a decade. So if I was at work, I was working with one hand, putting beer bottles under my arm and taking my bar tool and open it and taking money. And I was one hand working, you know, like still like, it's not like I could just stop working just because I wasn't feeling good. You know,
the suspense is killing me. What was it?
Well, after I get the labs and I go back, this lady's sitting in front of me and she's like, oh, Tia, you're premenopausal. Your hormones are out of whack. And she's like, oh, yeah, I think you have an She says they can connect the dots now that there's an autoimmune blocker in cigarettes.
Oh, my gosh.
So for 20 years, my body has been trying to give me signals about having an autoimmune deficiency, and that I can't get any of those signs, because every day I would wake up and I would blame the way that I felt on one too many shots or one too many cigarettes. And then I eliminated the alcohol and cigarettes, and I was still having that going on with me. So then they could actually start figuring out that, like, oh, I had a little bit, I can't have too many nuts in one day, or like, it was all my hormones and other stuff that was going on with me. But I was also, at the weight that I was at almost 40, I was on the edge of diabetes.
Yep.
I was on the edge of, and being a black woman, I was on the edge of all this stuff. Now I'm not, though. You know, like, it started with the elimination diet, and then she went to gut treatment where we did like the microbiome diet. And then when I started feeling better, like, I went to this woman and she put me on that elimination diet and the hives stopped, and she was like, you're doing good. Now I want you to find a way to get active for 30 minutes a day. And I was like, you're crazy. I'm going. I did. I literally was like, okay, perfect. What do you want me to do? And we left, and I remember being like, I'm not doing any of that. As soon as we left that appointment, and I like went back to work and just started doing what I was doing. And then not long after that, one of my cousins got married. And then, so my family's big. You know, I didn't go into like my roots. I'll go back into that in a minute. But like, my family is large. And my roots are in downtown Charleston. And so we had a family wedding. And so everybody was there. And my cousin was like, you look good. Because at this point, I'm starting to shrink from that elimination diet.
Right.
You know, the weight's coming off. I'm starting to feel better. And he's like, you look good. And I'm telling him how bad all this is, and how now this lady I'm like, out of nowhere now, she wants me to just get active. Like, I'm like, out of nowhere. It's probably already in her plan, you know?
Right.
And he says, oh, you should come crabbing with me.
Okay.
And so he takes me crabbing the next day after that. He was like, meet me at this dock. And I go there, and he's got this big 7-foot cast net with this ring in it. He's got all these baskets, and he starts dropping these baskets, and we start catching blue crabs. Now, this is what I'm going to tell you about my family, because I think it's important to say this, because I grew up from an area in downtown Charleston called Romney Village.
Okay.
Now, my family grew up on Henrietta Street, which is right outside of Marion Square, which is almost at the corner of King and Calhoun. So you got King Street and Meeting Street, and then Calhoun Street on the top. So it's like the center,
so what's
the heart of the city.
significance of this part of the neighborhood? Because for people who aren't from Charleston.
Well, because of the Gullah Geechee culture.
Okay.
Like, my family, we're Gullah Geechee, and my family grew up. The culture is the West African slaves that built the rice plantations. Like, my family actually came from the plantation in Georgetown.
Oh, cool.
I actually was able to go back and find that in Ancestry, and actually find the plantation that they came to from Georgetown. But there is this corridor that runs from like South Carolina, North Carolina, Georgia, and it's protected now. And it's called the Gullah Geechee Heritage Corridor. And my family, actually, I can track back that they've lived in that corridor since as long as their records are, which means that it's probably been longer, because they were just keeping records.
Thank you for explaining that for people who aren't familiar with that.
No problem. And so downtown off of Henrietta Street, that's like right outside the heart of the city, outside the market. That's in downtown Charleston. Well, my great-grandmother and grandfather lived in the house there, and my great-grandmother had 16 kids. And 2 of those kids, just my grandmother and one of her closest sisters, they had a combined total of 21 kids.
Wow.
And so that's just 2 of them out of the 16.
That's what, 37 kids?
Now, you also got to know, I have cousins that had like 5 kids early and before they were 30, you know.
That's
like my
big family.
Hey, man,
so
they just multiply.
Now I understand what you mean by my family's big.
My family is large. I got a big Geechee family in downtown Charleston, but Geechee people, we eat crabs all the time, like all the time. I knew how to pick blue crabs. I knew how to cook blue crabs, all this stuff before my cousin. It was a part of my life, but I lost it somewhere. I have no idea where. I mean, I keep going back and wanting to figure out, when did I decide to just stop frying fish? When did I decide to just stop cooking crabs? Because I did it for so long, and I knew how to do it. And so he took me there, and I just remember that first crab basket. I remember that basket coming up, and it was a big male crab, because he was like, that's a Jimmy. That's what he kept saying. That's a Jimmy. This big male crab was in there. And I just remember having the emotion of, how the hell is there a blue crab in this basket? Like, what just happened
did I
just
do?
now? No, I was just like, no, not even what do I do? Like I was
What
like,
did I do?
I was
man?
just like, it was almost like, what do you mean they're in this water? Like
Right.
what? Like,
Yeah.
how did I not know? Like,
Right.
how did I not? I've been eating crabs my whole life. How did I not know they were in this water? What's wrong with me? Like, it was just like this, what is wrong with me kind of like thing, you know? Then he teaches me how to throw a cast net. We throw that cast net, start catching bait. He takes the bait. I thought we was using it for crabbing. He takes the bait, puts that on the fishing pole, and then we caught a whiting, which is my mom's favorite fish. I went home, cooked crabs and whiting that night. I can't even tell you the last time I did it before then. Last time I did it before then probably was for work or something.
Yeah.
But
even the last time you did it before then, you didn't catch it.
no, I didn't catch it. No
Yeah.
chance did I catch. No way. Like, that's what I'm saying. It's like when the shrimp came up, I'm like, there's shrimp in this water. It was like, I was asking myself, like, what is wrong with you? How do I not know
Yeah.
the stuff that I'm eating, that I
Right.
grew up eating, was in this water? And so I'm like, what the heck is going on here? And I just remember having this moment feeling like, that's it. Everything I think I know is shit. Like, everything you know is wrong. Up is not up. Down is not down. Like, you're an idiot. Like, I have like this thing where I always like beat myself because I'm like, you're stupid. Like, why did you do that? Like, it's like, you know, you expect yourself to know something, but I don't know. It's just, for me, I felt like growing up here, like I felt like I was supposed to know that. Like, this is something that I was supposed to know.
So how did this evolve into I want to open a business?
Never. It didn't do that. After we had that experience, I wanted to go crabbing every day. So I went crabbing almost every day, as much as I could. And I would take pictures and post pictures like everybody else did.
On social
But
media.
it's funny is because it wasn't even really about crabs at first. So the pictures, if you go to like my early pictures, they're more of like sunrises or my wagon that I was crabbing with with the sunrise in the backdrop, or like a little bait fish or
whole
something on the
experience.
dock. It was just me. It was
Yeah.
just me by
Yeah.
myself, you know. It was just my time. So it was
Yeah.
just me sharing this little glimpse of like this little time that I was having. And so one day I was on the dock and my phone went off and I took it out, and it was like the most activity I've ever seen on any kind of social media thing I've ever had. And it first one said, Robbie made you an administrator of a page called Casual Crabbing with Tia. One of my fishing buddies, when I was crabbing and posting and all this stuff, he used to tease me and be like, I'm going to create this page. I'm going to make this thing. And I'd be like, dude, you crazy. Like, he was like, watch, I'm going to do this. And so Robbie came up, created a Facebook page called Casual Crabbing with Tia. He sent me the link. And then below where he had done all that stuff, there were already messages because I was out on the dock crabbing. I didn't notice it. So when I picked the phone up the first time, he had made the page. Well, other people had already seen it. So there were like likes and comments and all this stuff. And it was people going, oh my God, I love this. Will you take me crabbing? Can I come crabbing? And I was like, nope. I
Who's
did.
your friend? Your cousin? That
No, my boy Robbie Mottinger.
you're like,
Robbie.
God damn it, Robbie.
I did. I was like, seriously, like, but at first some of the messages were nice because some of them were from people that I knew, but then some of them were from people that I didn't know. But most of them were like, oh man, can I do this? How can I do this? Where can I do this? Can I bring people? And I was like, I'm not doing none of that. Like, no. And so Robbie creates that page. I tell everybody no. One of my food and beverage veteran dudes who was a regular, Peter was like, hey, my brothers are visiting from Vermont. Will you take them crabbing? And I was like, no. I was like, Peter. He was like, Tia, please take them. Like, it looks so fun. And I was like, I really don't want to do this, but I love Peter. And I was like, okay, Peter, I'll do it. So that is when I got the business license because Robbie and I had been out on the dock several times kind of doing this. And he was, when I first started crabbing. So he was saying like, people probably pay you to do this. And I was like, whatever, dude. No way. Whatever. No chance. And so Peter, when I took them out, I was like, I'm going to get the license just in case, because what if I did want to do something later? I didn't want to get in trouble
so you
for
didn't
doing
charge these first people, did you?
Peter and his brother? No, I was just, but I didn't want to get, no, I did it, but it was very, very cheap. And I didn't want to get in trouble for doing that. So I got the license. You know what I mean? Yeah. I really was, because I was like, what if it does one day and I want to do it and then I started out and I get in trouble? Like, that would suck. And so I have this experience where I take his brothers out. I was scared shitless. I took him out.
Why were you afraid of?
Well, I felt like a fraud because what do I know about crabbing? This is like my first group. Like, I don't really know what I'm doing.
How long have you been doing it up to this point?
know how much I wasn't really doing it as a business. You know how long I've been crabbing by myself.
From the first experience to this point,
9 months, maybe, just going by myself.
That's pretty good. Every day.
Almost every day.
So that's a lot of experience. That's almost it's like 300 experience or like 200 and something experiences.
I put myself on there with unless there was bad weather, I was there, and I didn't care if I only got 2 hours of sleep in between.
So this was your 30 minutes of exercise.
That was it. That was my way to become physically active. I'm serious. And so that's why I went there, because I threw a 7-foot cast net for 2 hours, you know?
Trunk twists.
I mean, dude, it was crazy. I would be out there. My wife would come out, try to do it. She'd be gone in 15, 20 minutes. Like, she would set up a hammock with every intention to hang out. And then she would be gone within like a half an hour. And she'd be like, I have no idea how you are out there. It is so hot outside.
That's
like, she's like, I'm not doing that. So I took Peter's brothers out. And then after this is done, right? And we were talking about why I thought it was a fraud. Why I thought it was a fraud is because I didn't know anything, and then these guys show up with their own fishing poles. So I felt like really like it. I was like, okay, they're gonna know now that I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah,
but
you're fishing for you're grabbing. You're not using a fishing pole.
I know.
Unless you're catching bait, I guess.
But to me, who's just starting to crab, my first guess were people that were seasoned enough to have their own fishing poles to bring them out to this experience. So I thought, hopefully nothing happens with that pole that he asked me about, because I'm not going to be able to freaking help him, you know? Like, I was, like, really intimidated by that. But we didn't even get to fishing because we had such a good time crabbing. And it was just such a great day for them, I think, as brothers. And I remember just the feedback that they gave me. They were like, this is just such a great day that we had together. Thank you for this. And then I left, and I remember going home with my wife, and she was like, how was that? And I was like, oh, it's all right. You know, like, it was cool. Like, I had a good time. I remember saying something about his brothers. And then we sit down to eat, and then my phone goes off, and Peter has tagged me in a picture, and it is him and his brothers around the table with his family and them, and they're picking the crabs and stuff that we had caught that day. And I had this moment of, it was still going on. I was like, I thought it ended once they left the dock. Like, I had no idea that this thing was still. The experience
for them is still going.
I had no idea that it was still going. And so it kind of made it a little thing in my head, but didn't think anything of it. I still was like, nobody's coming. I told all these people, still continued to tell people no after that. Yeah. Then my friend Becky sends me a link to the Facebook page that Robbie created. And she said, Tia, I love watching your posts. You might want to look at this because Airbnb is going to start this thing in Charleston called Airbnb Experiences. And so I looked at the link, and then I like go home to my wife. I'm like, look at this stuff right here. I'm like, that is wild. I am not doing that. I'm serious, and I meant it. Like, I was like, I am not interested. I was like, people from around the world. I was like, I won't let people in Charleston come with me. Why would I let people from around the world come, you know? Right. And so Katie was like, well, what if we just, and I remember just being like, no. And I kept saying no, and she was just typing it as I'm saying no. And she types it up. And we sat there right after she was done. And she looked at me and she said, all right, all we have to do is hit submit right now. And we laugh now because I said, just do it. Nobody wants to go crabbing with me.
Yeah,
that is a
wasting
quote.
Your time.
That was a quote. I was like, Katie, just do it if it makes you happy. Nobody wants to go crabbing with me. Yeah. I was like, no worries, just send this thing. And I felt confident that it was going to be like she was going to be laughing because nobody's going to sign up for it, you know? Airbnb accepts the idea within like a week or two.
Yeah.
And I took my first group out as an Airbnb experience called Let's Go Crabbing in July of 2018. In November 2018, towards the end of the month, Airbnb was flying me to San Francisco, and they told me I was one of the top 4 exceptional hosts in their market.
Wow.
I didn't know anything about Airbnb. Like, when I tell you I don't know anything about Airbnb, I'd never stayed in one, and I'd never taken an experience. And then when I got there, it was me and 3 other people from around the world, and I was the United States representative. Wow. I was like, tell me about it, right? I'm sitting there going, oh, like the more it goes on, I'm like, oh, but still I felt like why I did. I felt like I'm not supposed to be here. I did, because I'm still managing my bar. I remember going to the bar owner being like, I need a week off, you know, like here's this crazy thing. Like, I'm still working.
But I mean, that's an element of the story that I wasn't even expecting to get, that if you do have a passion and it is unique and local to where you live and you're good at it, or you have like whatever the elements you need, there's a resource in Airbnb.
Oh my
that
God.
you can help get the word out to market and promote your business and what you're doing.
Let me tell you something. That platform changed my life.
The gig economy, man.
I'm telling you right now, like what it does, what that experience platform does is it allows anybody that has any kind of passion to really try it out.
Mm-hmm.
If they accept it on that platform, they support you. You have insurance. They handle your bookings. They handle all the money. I was able to start this business while I was behind the bar with my cell phone because of Airbnb experiences.
So this is another element too. Don't expect to go full in 100% on day one. It's going to be probably something that swings. Like you had a full-time job. This is your side hustle. And over time, the side hustle becomes, your 50% job, right? And then it's your 75%, and then you're full-time on it.
It's like any other business.
Yeah.
It's not you're going to leave one and just go start another. You need any other business, it takes time to set up,
like so just start though, right? And
absolutely. Yeah. But think about that though. Like all of the responsibility or all of like the real risk I felt like was gone.
Yeah.
It really was. And so I would be behind the bar and I'd be bartending and somebody would book. I'd be like, oh, let me get that drink. Yep, I got 4 people tomorrow at this time on, and it would be like my day off. So that's the thing is I'm managing this bar. I'm working, right? I'm bartending on my days off. That's the only time. The only time I can book to take people crabbing is when I'm not behind the bar.
Right.
Normally, that is the time that I'm resting.
How long did it take to go from part-time, like once a week when you have time off, to this is your full-time job? Where you can afford to have publicists and promote the, like.
Well, 2019 is when I decided to leave the bar. And that is when I was creating enough business that I felt like I could sustain for me and for my partner Art.
And if you went full time, like maybe like whatever you're missing, if you went full time, you can make up the difference maybe.
Yeah, but I mean, really, I didn't think about the money at that point. It wasn't, I'm telling you, like a lot of this, and that's back to my joy over money.
Yeah.
I worked for money for all the time, from 17 up until 37, I worked for money. And from 37 to 43, I started working for joy because I didn't think about that at first. What I thought about when I said I'm going to get this business is I thought, damn, I took that to this level by giving it this much of me because I was only giving it 2 days a week, maybe sometime 3 days a week. And it was getting pulled in and getting all this attention, and it was doing that well. And I thought, I do so much for other people, and I give all of myself for other people. What if I gave all of myself for this? And I'm telling you, it all went back to after I came back from San Francisco. Almost everybody I ran into was like, because there were articles written as soon as I got back.
The Airbnb event.
That was the Airbnb event.
Yeah.
And when I came back from that, there was an article. There was 2 of them out. But one of them said, South Carolina woman chosen as one of the top 4 in the world. And everybody off of that, people were just like, oh, my God, I bet you're going to quit your job. I'm like, I am not quitting my job. Like, y'all are crazy. I absolutely like, you people are crazy. Like, I'm not quitting my job. And then I kept like going in the bar working, going to the water in the morning with my cast net, going to the bar at night, going in the water. And then one day I pulled up to the back of that bar. I turned that truck off and I sat there for a minute and my eyes started welling up. And I was like back to myself again when I was like, you are an idiot. I was like, you drove yourself here. You keep putting yourself in the situation. You wanting something different. And I just like was really upset with myself. And I think it was because of having a good time on the water and then having this at the bar, because I got home and told my wife about that. And she was like, you should quit. She was like, you should take a chance and you should quit. And so I did. And I quit in 2019. Art and I, my good buddy Art was helping me, Art Perry, when I was doing this and I was behind the bar. I'd be like, shit, I got 7 people the next day. What am I going to do? And it's like, it started getting busy, like I'm still like, I'm just going to take 1 family, 2 families. Then it's getting busy. And I got a mix of 2 families, a total of 7 people with me on the dock hosting this group, not really knowing what I'm doing. And so I was nervous and like, I wouldn't feel a lot of support from some of the people that I expected to have support from, some of my friends, like I wasn't really feeling that. And Art and I weren't that close to friends at the time. But when I would get on that, if I expressed that to him, when I got on that dock, there would be a message that would be like, you got this. Just be yourself. Like, you got this, like, whatever. And it would just be supportive, you know? And so Art actually, when Airbnb flew me to San Francisco, he called me when I was on my first Airbnb experience where a guy was taking me crabbing. We'll talk about that later. But I'm doing that, and Art calls me, and he's like, hey, I know you're busy. I just need a few seconds, but I want to let you know. I just put my notice in. I'm going to quit my job. I was like, no. I was like, please do not quit your job. I was like, what are you talking about? He was like, Tia, you got this. Like, I believe in this. And I was like, Art, do not quit your job. And he was like, too late. They exited. They just walked me out.
And we left off your crabbing buddy says, Art says, I'm going to quit my job. And you say, no. That's where you were.
I was begging him. I was begging him not to, because here's this thing, right? And I'm like trying to create this world for me to live in. The pressure of having another person quit their job, and then now I have to this cannot fail. You know?
Welcome to ownership.
This cannot fail. Like, you and your family have to eat now because of this. Like, everything that you're basing everything on this. And so I didn't want that pressure at that time. But it also felt good because he saw something that I didn't see, and he's always seen it, and he always keeps telling me, and I don't, because I just never believe the hype. I really don't. But in 2019, when I quit, it was because Art quit 6 months before I quit my job. He quit his job to help me follow my dream, like that was a big deal for me. And some other people that I was expecting that kind of support from, I wasn't getting. So it was like out of nowhere. And then when it became time to really grow the business, it became a no-brainer that it was going to be him. So he is now the co-host of Casual Crabbing with Tia. It is either me or it's Art that is leading the session.
Got it.
And he's the person that I feel that job is made for him.
So if somebody's listening to this and they're thinking to themselves, I have a passion for fill in the blank, some type of going out into Mother Nature and pulling from the bounty, whether that be foraging or fishing for crabs or any type of experience you could offer somebody, right? Mm-hmm. What's your advice for that person to create what you've created for yourself? Where would you start? Knowing what you know now, and somebody wants to get to where you are, what would you tell them?
One thing I would tell them to check out the Airbnb experience platform. Like, that's no joke. Like, I mean, whoever's listening to this, Airbnb's not fucking paying me to say this. Like, that was a very helpful tool for me when I was taking this chance. Like, the risk, it takes a lot of the risk out. I felt empowered by that platform, and just by them saying, we want to help and support you try this idea. I told them about an idea, and they create a world for you to share that with people, and at first I thought, okay, now I need to start marketing this thing. I need to start doing this thing. But then I didn't even understand how it worked. I didn't understand that people take your experience, they leave, and Airbnb asks them for reviews. Mm-hmm. Like, I didn't understand that is how that worked.
Yeah.
And I used to go out. I never even mentioned the word reviews because I didn't know that that's how that worked.
Yeah.
Well, when I got to San Francisco, Airbnb flew us out there. We were there for a week.
It was based off the reviews, wasn't it?
No, it was but they had meetings for us. And one of the meetings was a guy asking me about my reviews because my reviews were very long. Like, they were like really novels that people were writing early on in Airbnb. And I was like, I'm sorry, I don't know Scott from Minnesota. Like, I just took that guy crabbing, and they were like, how did you get this guy to leave this review? That's
hospitality
almost
industry,
and that's what they were really saying, like, how did you get these reviews? Because we tell us so we can help other hosts to be successful. And I was like, hey, man, I've never even said reviews to people. Like, I have no idea. Like, I did not know that that's what was happening. Like, that was me in San Francisco responding to them, like, in their headquarters. I was like, I'm so sorry, I can't answer that question.
So, I mean, knowing what you know about the experience you're delivering, what would you assume is the reason why you're getting these reviews?
Well, because of the environment. I create this environment that people don't realize that they need and that they want. Like, you put your phone down, we're next to the water, we are crabbing, we're throwing a cast net, you have all four of the senses hitting on the dock. And then I even clean the crabs, and you take them away, and you go to a restaurant and they cook them for you. So then the fifth sense is right there. So you've got all five senses like exploding at the same time. you can't control that.
So what's your advice for recreating that in different verticals of going out and creating these food experiences?
It's your joy. It's your joy. That's how I create that. That's how I get that from people. It's because I go crabbing every day.
Yeah.
I am thrilled every time a crab comes out of the basket, out of the water.
And this is where it gets a little personal. We ask like personal questions around like finance and stuff, but like how do you know where to start charging people?
You don't. You absolutely don't. And when you first start, you're probably going to undercharge them because nobody thinks we all start trying to spend other people's money.
So have your rates gone up over time?
Absolutely. And it's because it's based off of, one, what it costs for me to have that experience and to have a crew now to do it. But also what it means to me. Like, I'm giving people life lessons where they'll never go hungry again.
Also supply and demand.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, that's yeah. Also supply and demand. Yes.
If you're booking out,
we're
start
very
charging much until people stop booking and then bring it back.
That's exactly how it works.
Yeah.
Well, good thing for us. We haven't had to start bringing it back. Don't be afraid to recognize
your value, though. Get what you need to take care of yourself.
It's been hard. It's been hard, and having a few mentors and people to ask questions and stuff too. But one of the things I learned with like pricing and cost is like we always try to spend other people's money.
Yeah.
Don't
what do you
spend.
Mean by that?
Like you're basing the cost off of what you would spend. Like, like at first I was like, okay, $60 because maybe this person won't be able to buy it or this person won't be able this or maybe this and that. Well, you have to run whatever the cost is for the experience. You can't
go restaurant.
Just like anything else. It has to be what it is to cover the expense, including the labor that it is for that person. And if that number gets to be at an uncomfortable thing, which I have felt a few times, it's been helpful to have other people tell me, you can't spend other people's money for them. And
so how much is sorry, did I cut you short?
No, you're good.
How much does crabbing with Tia experience cost today?
Right now, it's $100 a person.
100. And where was it when you started?
$60.
Okay, so you almost doubled.
Yeah, but that's almost 5 years.
Yeah, demand.
Almost 5 years where it was $60 when it was just me.
Is that per person?
Yes.
And how many people can you take out at a time?
12 at a time, but we
do. Tia.
But that 12 at a time. We're doing 3 time slots a day now. We're starting this season.
So $3,600 a day.
Well, I mean, hopefully. I mean, I've just started that. I mean, that is not what's happening now, but that is what the season, that is where we are. But it's also like, when I was 60, it was just me. Like I have a crew of 8, about to be 10 now, like that's nuts. Like that's a lot of mouths to feed,
Yeah. But you're proving that there's good money to be made in this, doing something you love, more importantly. And there's so many people out there in the restaurant industry who are drawn to food experiences because food is our passion. And on our days off, when we're not selling the food and slinging the food, we're thrusting ourselves into nature and doing the things we love. And that can become our career. And I think it's so important to offer this perspective and to get people to think outside of the box and to do things that fill their cup. And to benefit and to profit from that. There's no shame in that at all.
Dude, not at all. And I'm telling you, like, whatever, like in my head, I thought bar, that's it. Mm-hmm. I thought it was time for me to open my own bar. I went and had plans for those bars made up. 6 months later, I went crabbing for the first time.
Nice. And how hard is it to get on to this Airbnb experience? Maybe it's changed over the past few years.
I don't know. Maybe it's changed. And when I was first on, they wanted it to really be unique. So it's not just saturated with like the same thing. Like supposedly if there was something that you could come to get in town, then it wouldn't have been offered on the experience platform. So if you have a big fishing town, then they're probably not going to offer fishing or something there. It's supposed to be unique things. And that's why crabbing stood out, because nobody was crabbing.
It doesn't have to be food. I mean, I think a lot of people in the restaurant industry are passionate about getting out and just being outside. I think there's a lot of active people in this industry.
It's our personalities. Like it's our personalities in the way that you react with people being in the restaurant business. Right. I have a friend right now, Peter. He started one where it is like, I think it's called the cocktail concierge. Like Peter has served drinks for a long time. He's a great bartender, flair bartender, awesome personality. He started an experience where he meets groups and he takes groups around to his favorite bars and stuff in town. It can be out of the box. That's a business.
Exactly. And the experience could be, maybe you have a passion of cooking one thing.
Yes.
Right. And you want to share, like, you want to teach people how to do that one thing, right?
Yeah.
You don't have to open a restaurant.
No.
You can literally teach people how to do that one thing.
One thing.
Yeah. Think outside of the box. Challenge the traditional business model of restaurants.
Well, here's the other thing. We're weirdos, right? There are other weirdos out there that like the things that you like. Like, I promise, there is a tribe for almost everything out there. There are like-minded people that will like it, but they don't know it because they wait for the first person to go out and do it. And then they're like, oh, man.
Right. And Airbnb is casting a huge net for you. You know,
oh my God,
weirdos all over the world, all your weirdos,
I know,
can find you, and come to you, and you can share this weirdo experience with them.
Absolutely.
Right? So one thing I do like to talk about here at Restaurant Stop, unless there's anything other advice, I don't want to cut you short. What else do we need to know about this type of business?
What other business? Be vulnerable in that. Just know that you're gonna fail. Like, expect to fail. Like, you just expect to fail. And
how did you fail?
How did I fail?
Did you fail?
A few times I did. 2020, everybody failed, right? 2020.
Right.
Well, for me, I put all of these eggs in this basket. Like, 2019 is when I quit, and still was kind of tiptoeing into it. 2020 this is my year. Like, in my off season, I did all this work. Like, I was so ready. Like,
you're bringing back emotional.
I'm sorry, take it
for me too. 2020, I moved to Austin, Texas, January 1st, and I remember thinking that to myself the whole drive from New Hampshire to Austin on the 1st. This is gonna be my
This
year.
is it, dude.
How many of us said that to ourselves?
New
decade, new life.
I know. But I mean, like, this is how bad. This is how ours was. We got 6 weeks off in between sessions. So it was like March 9th or something like that. And Art and I are like putting in all this freaking work. And we are about to get this next season open. We got the season started and COVID hit it and shut us down 2 days into the season. 2 days. That was
back to
really.
Bars. Well, you couldn't even do that.
No, there was no back to bars. There was no back to nothing. And then I was like, what am I going to do? It's me and Art, right?
Yeah.
Small business. I think we got a PPP loan that helped. But then Airbnb shut down their platform. And I realized I'm not actually.
Yeah.
No, I realized that I wasn't actually in control.
Oh.
When they shut down, because my business is outside, land-based, huge outdoor spread, right? Well, I can actually provide a space for people to go outside and do things.
Yeah.
But I don't have a way for them to book me because Airbnb shut down.
That was your whole platform.
That was it. And so that caused me to build out my own platform. And so I built my own platform. And now we have Casual Crabbing with Tia.com.
This is a huge lesson. I'm happy we kept pushing. So what is your platform? Just your website.
To my website, casualcrabbingwithtia.com. So now, instead of just all of my bookings coming through Airbnb, they now come through Airbnb and Casual Crabbing with Tia. But because I was in business when they weren't, when they had shut down, I was still carrying on. I started getting a following on my website. So now I am easily more bookings come through Casual Crabbing than they do through Airbnb.
So when you were just Airbnb, or even now that you're still using Airbnb, do you get any of that data, the contact information from your guests, or do you just see that there's a reservation, a name, or can you get like an email from that person, phone number?
You can once they book. So people can't just reach out to you on Airbnb's platform and then you kind of share phone numbers and stuff.
Yeah.
But once they actually have a confirmed booking, then you can share information. And I share. When those guests get on the dock, they get all of my information.
Yeah. I mean, the lesson here is that you need to own your list. You need to have your own platform. You can't you can't put all of your eggs into the Facebook basket or the Instagram basket or the TikTok basket or the Airbnb basket, because if something happens with one of those platforms, there goes your list.
There it goes. There goes everything.
It's gone. There goes everything.
Yeah,
so
there goes
build
everything.
Your own platform.
That is the one thing that I had to overcome, because it was really hard for me there. And I mean, honestly, I feel like I'm just kind of coming back from that, almost like financially, because it hit me so bad that like almost everything we did was kind of just coming back from it, you know, and it just takes a little bit of time to level out. But also with that, the growth, because you were asking me, I had to hire a publicist last July. Because it kind of, I guess it is, but at the point in time, I was very busy, and I was thinking, it just got to a point to where I was like, I should not be answering this phone call. Like, you know, we're now dealing with like sponsorships. We're sponsored by Hook Fishing and sunglasses and cast nets and stuff. So it's like,
You're wearing a hook fishing shirt now?
I am not wearing a hook shirt because I am not on the water. Okay. That is the only reason why. But if you go to my website, almost every shirt you see is hook, because if I'm on the water, that's what I'm rocking.
So there's some more lessons here. It doesn't just stop at the transaction with the person you're providing the experience for, but now you have an audience of specific people who are interested in a specific thing, right? So now you can start approaching people who also want access to that audience.
Yes.
And that's what I do with my podcast. I have an audience of restaurant owners and operators and aspiring restaurant owners and operators, and we have a mission. We're trying to create an experience I can now use this platform to, you know, find other ways to monetize, you know? So and there's no shame in doing that, especially if it's a good message, I feel like.
No, absolutely. And so that leads me into one of my other messages, right? So I was thinking to myself, here I am now, I have this crabbing business. Well, I thought this in the beginning, but I thought, if I do this crab business, so I remember saying early on, why would I take people crabbing and just let them come take stuff out of the water in my hometown? That's but that was also thinking, like, that was my negative thinking of Katie and everybody being like, oh my gosh, why don't you give it a try? And I'm like, no, why would I let these people do this? Why would I do this? Like, that was just my mentality, you know, not thinking that these people could actually be helping. And so everyone that is 16 and up that come and take our experience, they purchase a saltwater fishing license. That money goes to our Department of Natural Resources and a program called the SCORE program, which is the South Carolina Oyster Recycling and Enhancement Program, where they collect recycled oyster shells throughout the community. We volunteer with them, host monthly volunteer events where people from the community can come. We build artificial oyster reef, they call MWRs, manufactured wire reefs, and we place them along the shoreline, and we're doing shoreline restoration.
So by pulling the oysters out of the water, are you messing with the cycle?
No, where people have oysters and they eat them, like restaurants, people for their oyster roast. The trash, when they're done shucking oysters, that's what we want.
Yes.
We take that and we put that back in the water,
that's the
in
point
the
I was
reefs.
trying to make. So you don't realize it when you're going fishing for oysters. Traditionally, nature, you'd be getting those oysters, probably opening them right there. You think about birds and animals. And you
put the shells right back in the water.
So that's a cycle that we kind of fucked up. You know, when we pull the oysters out and it goes into the landfill, it's not going back to where it should be.
That's right. So you need to get it kind of back in the water in a structured way. Now, oysters in every estuary is different. In our estuary, oysters are the keystone species here. So we need oysters for all other life to reside here. So that is why we are working hard to put it back in the water. And oysters are just a free floating larva called spat. And they need something to land on. And they actually search out that calcium that's in those shells.
Okay.
And they land on it. And in Charleston, in South Carolina, we have cluster oysters. So they start growing and clustering. They actually filter our water, because one male oyster filters 50 gallons of water a day.
Holy cow.
So just one. Wow. So you think about these cages. We have 30 MWRs just at the location where we crab every day, which has thousands of shells in each one.
Yeah.
I mean, but it's filtering water. It's habitat forming. And it protects the grass line from erosion. Yeah. And so just by people taking our experience, before they even show up, they're helping us to put life back in the water. They
have to get a license to do it
They have to get the license in order to do it legally.
You're making another really good point. A lot of people don't like hunting and fishing. Like, how dare you murder animals and fish or whatever. The licensing that pays for, like, the people who pay for their licenses to do this are supporting
that species, the species that they're hunting, and other species.
What's the word I'm looking for? I had it in the back of my mind. I already lost it. Just sustainability, like supporting the ecosystem.
Absolutely.
Hunters and fishers are supporting and making it possible for these species to continue to thrive.
Yeah. Not everybody's just killing stuff for fun.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, you know, I have a strong rule. I don't kill anything unless it's for nourishment. If I'm eating it, that's when it's gonna die by
the hunters and fishers that kill those animals are doing more to support those animals than anybody else.
Yes,
People don't
absolutely.
realize that.
Absolutely.
It's like, come on, like open your eyes. Don't be just emotional like people.
Well, you have to
squawking
educate
about
yourself. A lot of people
Yeah,
aren't educated on it,
exactly.
and they only repeat things that they hear and don't actually
Yeah.
know the facts.
Yeah.
Like DNR, like
Yeah.
anytime anybody hears
Conservation was the word I was looking for. Like,
DNR, yeah,
like hunters and fishers support. They do more for conservation than any animal activists out there.
absolutely. I agree.
1,000 times more.
Yeah.
Because they funded the resources to keep it going.
Absolutely.
And people need to be aware of that. Sorry if I cut you off.
No, you're
When
good.
that came
But
into
that's the
my
stuff
head.
that gets me excited,
Me too.
though. Like, so I went crabbing, right? Now I'm trying to catch I'm catching crabs, fish, feeding my family off that, shrimp. I just bought a compound bow, doing some firearms training. Like, I
Nice.
literally want to try to catch and prepare as much of my food as I can, because I had no idea that I needed that in my life. Like, not that I wanted that. Like, I needed that. After I had it, I was like, what is this? Like, and then I realized for years I've been eating, don't know nothing about what I'm eating. Just eat because I eat. Now I'm trying to know exactly what I'm putting. I know where that came from. I know what
Especially
I put in that.
venison
I
and
know
elk
what.
and like that meat is the most lean, healthy stuff you can eat. That protein is so good for you.
Well, I have a lot of really knowledgeable friends that are being very gracious and sharing a lot of tips and helping me get my feet in the door with that.
So traditionally, Restaurant Unstoppable transitions into what can we do to move into the future better, right? And I think we kind of just touched on that. As just so. But do you want to round off that thought of like if you could like leave us with one message, and like how we can transform the industry and move into the future just more holistically?
Yeah, if you find ways that you really honestly think that you can improve it. Like, I think, and even from experiences, for me, I am 43 and caught my first crab at 37. I don't want another person to live in Charleston and be surrounded by the beautiful water there and not have a relationship with it. So I'm even going to work even harder now to try to start working with youth and women and other people and help them get to the water, And I feel like for me, that right there, that sharing of that little knowledge, it could be something that small.
I got Take Me to the Water running through
You
my
got
head.
it,
Take me to the water. Drop me in. Sorry, keep going.
That's all right. I mean, we can get the band started in here if you want. I didn't think that's the kind of show we was having.
I got a little shy. I've really enjoyed today's conversation.
Yeah, I have too.
Thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to accommodate us, to share your story, to inspire us, to empower us with your knowledge, and to make us all just a little bit better after listening to you. I think we're definitely transforming the industry right now. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Before we say goodbye, I wrap up every interview by calling somebody out. Who do you respect and admire?
Who do I respect and admire?
In the industries. It doesn't have to be a restaurant owner. Clearly, we proved that, there's this, the food and beverage is bigger than restaurants. But who do you respect and admire? And if they were a guest on the show, they would absolutely provide value as a mentor.
My good friend Carrie Morey that owns Callie's Hot Little Biscuits.
Okay,
I think she is probably, for me, probably one of the strongest female business owners that, for me. And just having her as a friend and being able to, she's just a very authentic person. And I don't really know how to say that until you meet Carrie.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's
like
Carrie Morey?
Carrie Morey.
And what's the name of her business?
Callie's Hot Little Biscuit.
Callie's Hot Little Biscuit.
Yeah, she is one of the most authentic people. And honestly, I think a boss ass like a boss ass business owner. Like, I just have so much respect for her as just as a woman, as a mom, and as a business owner.
Beautiful. Look out, Carrie, I'm coming after you. I'd love to get you on the show. And what if we want to experience a crabbing experience?
Yeah, come see me. casualcrabbingwithtia.com, the Casual Crabber, or you can follow Casual Crabbing with Tia on Instagram or on TikTok. Come see us.
Tia Clark, there is no questioning. You are unstoppable.
Awesome. Thank
All
you.
right, we just wrapped our interview with Tia Clark. Tia's Casual Crabbing. Amazing conversation, by the way. If you have not checked out the episode, restaurantstoppable.com/983. You said you had a little gift for us.
I did. Well, I brought you stickers for
Thank
one.
you so
They're
much.
waterproof. You can put them anywhere you like. But this right here. This is
I can open it.
yes, you can open it. This is a family
You ready?
recipe. You're gonna have to unwrap it a little bit.
Okay.
That's a family recipe. Those are called Chewies. Do you have a nut allergy?
I do not.
Excellent. And these are called Chewies.
Oh my goodness. So
My mom made those just for you guys.
Oh.
I want you to get right in there and be honest. Like, you can tell me, I already know what they're like, but you know, you can really be honest.
They're chewy for sure. They're the best kind, chewy them.
They are the best kind.
This is so delicious.
Yes.
I mean, are you allowed to tell us what it is? I don't want to
I absolutely
upset
am
Mom.
not. Well, you know what? I would tell you, but I would like to stay breathing on this second round. So I'm
Mom's gonna find it.